The war, they said, was born of grand ideals, a fever of philosophy spreading from coffee houses to congressional halls. But by December of 1777, the fever had become a chill, a profound existential cold that gripped the Continental Army at a place called Valley Forge. It wasn't a battle fought with musket and cannon, but a war of attrition waged against the very elements, against the crushing weight of neglect, and against the slow, creeping death of hope. Our protagonist, Dr. Elias Thorne, knew the chill better than most. He had traded the gilded precision of a London operating theater for a crude, smoke-filled hut where the air stank of unwashed bodies and gangrenous wounds. Elias was more than a surgeon. He was a custodian of secrets. His medical bag, stained with the irreversible crimson of his daily failures, held not just scalpels, but encoded messages stitched into the lining. He was Washington's whisper, a vital link between the desperate encampment and the political maneuvering in Philadelphia. A surgeon is a necessary evil, Elias often thought, his eyes hollowed by sleepless nights. But a spy is a necessary lie. His closest confidant, a man whose loyalty had been his fixed star in this chaotic galaxy, was Major Jeremiah Jem Foster. Jem was the soul of the revolutionary ideal, passionate, pure, and utterly uncompromising. Their friendship, forged in the heat of Saratoga, was now being tempered and perhaps fractured in the deep freeze of Valley Forge. "They are starving, Elias." Jem's voice was a low growl one frigid morning, his breath clouding into a furious white ghost. "Not just hungry, starving. I saw men last night gnawing on the leather of their own cartridge boxes." Elias didn't look up from dressing a private's frozen feet, his movements automatic, efficient, and distant. "The supplies are in Philadelphia, Jem, 20 miles away, hoarded by merchants who prefer the king's gold to a republic's promise. The Committee of Congress sends platitudes, not provisions." Jem slammed his fist on the rough-hewn table. "Then we must take them. What is the purity of the cause if our men die of exposure and hunger?" "The ballot is failing the blood." It was the central agonizing contradiction of the revolution and the dominant theme of this entire section. When does the moral high ground become a shallow grave? Chapter 11. The Compromise of the Courier. The immediate crisis wasn't hunger, it was a plot. Washington's intelligence network had uncovered a whispering campaign known as the Conway Cabal, a conspiracy among disgruntled officers and members of Congress to replace Washington with the ambitious General Horatio Gates. Elias's mission was critical: deliver Washington's personal, damning evidence against the conspirators to a key loyal delegate in York, Pennsylvania. It was a journey of incredible risk through British-patrolled territory and deep snowdrifts. His cover was flawless, a civilian physician returning to his estate. But as he rode, bundled against the wind, a sudden, brutal cough seized him. The exhaustion, the cold, the persistent foulness of the hospital hut, it had finally taken hold. He was intercepted near the Schuylkill River, not by British dragoons, but by a small, desperate band of foragers from his own army. They were starving, ragged men, eyes wide with fever and desperation. Their leader, a young corporal, recognized the surgeon. "Dr. Thorne, thank God, we found a small cache, but there's a woman, sir, shot while defending her farm. We need help." Elias knew the compromise. Every minute spent was a minute closer to the cabal undermining Washington. But he was a physician first. He dismounted. The woman, a Quaker settler named Martha, had a deep musket wound. It needed immediate, professional attention. He worked through the night in a frozen, abandoned barn, his hands numb, his lungs burning. By dawn, he had saved her life, but the delay was costly. A loyalist patrol spotted his abandoned horse. They were closing in. Elias made a choice that would haunt him. He couldn't outrun them, and the documents couldn't be risked. He found a small frozen stream, broke the ice, and submerged the evidence, Washington's testament, in a watertight tin. He would retrieve it later. He grabbed the corporal's discarded, blood-soaked coat and ran, leading the patrol on a false trail, using himself as a decoy. He was caught, not as a spy, but as a vagrant caught with stolen property. The ensuing trial, by the local loyalist magistrate, a farcical proceeding, found him guilty. His punishment, forced labor, tending to the British smallpox camp on the outskirts of Philadelphia. A devastating, ironic twist. He had saved the life of one woman, only to place himself and his vital intelligence in a den of deadly contagion.
Elias spent 3 weeks in the smallpox camp, a place of unimaginable horror. He tended to the British sick, his mind constantly racing for a way out, his body resisting the deadly virus he knew he was constantly exposed to. During this time, he received an anonymous message smuggled in a hollowed-out medical flask. The ice thins. Gates prepares to move. You must expose the infection within before the fever breaks. It was from Jem. Jem had guessed Elias's capture and location, and more dangerously, had deduced the location of the submerged evidence. The cost of Elias's delay became tragically clear. The cabal had gained ground. Washington's command was under threat, and the Continental Army was disintegrating. Elias knew his only path to redemption and to saving the army was to escape and retrieve the evidence. He used his unique skill set, not as a soldier, but as a biological threat. He feigned an advanced stage of smallpox, using a harmless compound to create the telltale rash on his skin. When the panicked British guards abandoned his quarantine hut, he slipped away, plunging back into the brutal winter night. He made it back to the stream, retrieved the tin, and found the documents intact. But the victory was short-lived. He reached a rendezvous point, only to find Jem waiting, not alone, but with a small, tense detachment of men. Jem's face was a mask of cold fury. "You were captured, Elias. You delayed the message," Jem stated, his voice devoid of his usual warmth. "The general's cause was imperiled. I had to know. Did they extract information? Did you speak under duress?" Elias was stunned. "Jem, I was tending to the wounded, then captured. I put myself in the smallpox camp to save the evidence. I saved the woman to preserve our moral integrity." "Moral integrity?" Jem spat the words like lead shot. "What good is integrity when the army starves and the cause is lost? I am secured a loyalist doctor who claims he saw you drinking with the British officers. You are compromised, Elias, and now you carry a disease that could wipe out the rest of the camp." Jem had chosen ideological purity over friendship. The blood that coursed through their veins, the bond of brothers in arms, was being tested by the ballot, the political necessity. Chapter 16. The Field of Decision. The confrontation reached its peak. Jem, desperate to secure the documents and, in his mind, protect the army from a potential biological threat, drew his pistol. Elias, exhausted and shivering with a genuine fever this time, didn't fight. He saw the cold, tragic conviction in Jem's eyes. "Do you remember what Washington told us at Trenton, Jem?" Elias whispered, holding the sealed tin out to him. "The highest duty is not to an ideal, but to the living man. You would shoot your friend, not because he is a traitor, but because he delayed a political document to save a civilian life. Is that the republic we fight for?" Jem hesitated. That moment of hesitation was all Elias needed. He didn't run. He threw the tin, not at Jem, but at the feet of the other soldiers. "Look!" Elias cried, his voice hoarse. "Open it! It is the evidence of the cabal, the men who would let you starve in favor of their own vanity. Read it, then decide who the true traitor is, the spy who delayed or the officers who betrayed the general." As the soldiers hesitantly opened the documents, the British arrived. Not a patrol, but a small rapid raiding party alerted by the earlier commotion. They weren't after a spy. They were after the supplies Jem's men had secretly gathered for the camp, a small wagon of precious grain. The skirmish was short and brutal. Elias, drawing a pistol, fought alongside the very men who had been poised to shoot him moments earlier.
Jem, galvanized by the immediate, desperate threat and the sudden awful realization of his mistake, fought like a lion. In the chaos, Jem took a ball meant for Elias. He fell, clutching his side. Elias dropped his weapon and in a flash reverted to his truest self. He was the surgeon. He crawled to Jem, ignoring the flying musket balls. He tore open Jem's jacket, his trained fingers probing the wound. It was a terrible, deep wound that required more than field surgery. The raid was repelled, but the victory was a hollow echo in the frigid air. Chapter 18: The Costly Victory. They carried Jem back to Valley Forge. The documents were delivered to the loyal delegate, delayed but ultimately secured. The Conway cabal was exposed, their power broken by the overwhelming evidence of their disloyalty and greed. Washington's command was secured, the political battle of the ballot was won, but the personal cost was devastating. In the stinking, crowded hospital hut, Elias operated on Jem for hours, his hands moving with impossible delicacy, fighting the twin specters of infection and exhaustion. He succeeded. He removed the ball and saved his friend's life. But Jem woke 3 days later a changed man. The leg was infected, and the moral wound was deeper. "I was wrong, Elias," he whispered, his face pale and slick with sweat. "I chose the ideal over the man, the theoretical republic over the actual friend. I almost ruined you and the general's cause out of pride. Ideological purity is a tyrant, Elias. It devours the soul and leaves behind a frozen landscape." Elias sat by his side, his face etched with a profound, terrifying weariness. He had saved the revolution's leader and saved his friend's life. He had achieved a significant yet costly victory. But as he looked out at the frozen camp, at the starving men, at the newly arrived but entirely inadequate supplies, at the friend he had saved but irrevocably wounded, Elias questioned everything. This was the true crucible of the American Revolution and the defining moment for Elias Thorne. The winter at Valley Forge was not just a historical event, it was a psychological test. Elias had to choose between two profound duties: the duty to the political process, the ballot, and the duty to the human life in front of him, the blood. He chose the latter, and by doing so, paradoxically, saved the former. He proved that a republic founded on moral compromise and human compassion, though messier and slower, was ultimately stronger than a revolution built on unforgiving ideological purity. Dr. Elias Thorne, the surgeon and spy, had won the war for Washington, but lost his innocence. He had a future in this new republic, but the question remained: was a nation bought with so much personal sacrifice, moral compromise, and the blood of its purest believers truly worth the price he had paid? The answer, he knew, would only be revealed in the next battle.